Mr. Long.
Move that we adopt the agenda for March 12th, 2019.
Perfect. Is there any changes, adjustments, Brian? I don't see any. Nothing that you've got? Perfect. Okay. All those in favor? Carried. We'll get right to our scheduled delegations. And we'll invite you to come on up. So I'll let you just take it away and tell us that, and then we'll have some questions for you, perhaps.
Excellent. Good evening, Mayor, Council, CEO. Come to you tonight. Originally, I had booked a spot as a delegation tonight to discuss Council's priorities, but it's been discussed among Council. You've came up with 3 priorities. Those were emailed to me. I now have them. I had a question. I just needed a point of clarification. Just bear with me here. Just the first priority. It was police, community relations, visibility, and communications. So I just wanted to ask about the communications part because I wasn't 100% sure what Council meant by communications. I completely understand the community relations, the visibility, that's pretty straightforward, but the communications part, is it?
I'll try to explain, and then from what I got from when we talked about it, and then the rest of the council can add in if I miss anything. But sure. I think the key part of it was spreading the message of what you guys are doing and where you're doing it. And, you know, part of it would be like that map that you're doing and making sure that kind of information gets out to the people and the citizens so they know what you guys are doing, because often they don't know all of the stuff that you guys are doing in town. So just being able to spread that word.
Yeah, no, I completely understand, and I agree with that. I mean, we haven't always been terribly good about publicizing what we do. We just do it.
Yeah.
And it's very important, I think, especially with Enhanced Drug Unit, to really let you know what we're doing and what kind of accomplishments we're having in the community, what you're getting for your money, essentially. So I'm completely on board with that.
Was I missing it? Councillor Rose?
I think that one other thing that we were discussing was the fact that when you were here the last time, you mentioned that you were working on, and you weren't sure how to deliver it, but maybe even a Facebook platform that would allow some more timely communication when there was an issue in the area. Like, for example, there was a number of break-ins, and that information was, like, how do you communicate that information to the community that may help them remember to lock their doors? And, you know, so you weren't sure how you were going to deliver that, so I think we just wanted to make sure that you realized that we thought it was important as a priority, that if you're continuing to work down that path, we'd support that for sure.
Thank you, and I completely agree. We've had a fairly good local relationship with the newspaper. If it's not Chris, it's Richard, and we're continuing to communicate. We're supposed to be going through Edmonton when we're doing our news releases, but a lot of this other stuff that has more local relevancy, I don't really understand why I need to go through Edmonton when it comes to car prowlings, lock your doors, that kind of stuff. Or if there's not so much anymore. It used to be like door-to-door salesmen come to town kind of thing, and just sort of general fraud awareness, protecting our citizens and seniors. So completely understand, and I agree with that. The other question I had was, I did send out an annual report. Now, I get an annual report from Edmonton each year, and I shared that with you, and you all have it. A lot of stats, a lot of colored charts, a lot of indication where sort of our peak files are, how many files we had last year, and when we typically receive those types of complaints. And one of the interesting things I thought when I was going through this is, and I'm sure you saw this as well, there's always a sharp spike for complaints Monday morning at 9 a.m. And that's really more administrative. It's not like all crime is comes in. It's whatever sort of accumulates from the previous week up through the weekend, and then it's dumped into the lap of our admin. And then it starts to be entered around that time. So it's kind of an artificial.
When you check your emails, okay.
Oh, yes. Sometimes I think my whole day is emails. Other than that, the other thing too, of course, is the bulk of the files still do come from the town itself. I know that a lot of our time is spent up north in some of the northern communities, and it seems like that. But I think a lot of those, a lot of the files that happen in town aren't necessarily crimes, but they're more calls for service that don't always have to do with a criminal event occurring. We still track things like criminal record checks and motor vehicle collisions and things like that, and those all count to the total that happen in town. Does anybody have any questions based on what they reviewed? I wasn't sure if there was really anything per se.
I see no questions.
Michael.
Okay.
Hi. I've discussed a lot my concerns about the enhanced policing and whether we're getting our bang for our buck. I believe firmly that it's a downloading of responsibilities and the downloading of onto smaller communities and the province and from you to us. And we shouldn't, in my opinion, be having to fork out $100,000 for you guys to do your job. If it's a serious issue, i.e. drugs and the traffic of drugs in this area, then that's your responsibility. And that should be something you should be doing regardless of whether we pay $100,000 or $200,000, $300,000 from the county and us. And because it's a downloaded responsibility, I'm pretty much a firm supporter in canceling that. That being said, there are a lot of people in this community and even in this table that disagree with me. So I guess the thing that I would want to see more of is what's happening with drug enforcement and how effective is it, and are we catching the bad guys, and are we keeping our kids safe from drugs and from people peddling drugs, and especially the harder stuff. But we really don't know. Is that fair? That's a fair statement, I think.
I understand what you're saying. I completely understand what you're saying. I do. I know that. And I read the article in the newspaper addressing, that very same issue that Chris wrote. This is my 9th community I've worked in, and I can tell you every single community I worked in was always understaffed for police. There was always more going on than we simply had police for. In this community, we have, effective April 1st, we're supposed to have 21 police officers, 6 of which are enhanced. 2, which are the drug unit, which are paid for by the town and county combined. 3, which 1 per each settlement. And then the newest one is from Atikamekw, and Atikamekw are paying the shot on that one. So you take those 6 out of the equation, and it leaves me with 15 PPSA positions or provincial positions. And those 15, in my opinion, are not adequate to police this larger community. I'm advocating for much more. I think we should have 5 more. But I've been told no. Well, I get the same answer, actually. I think I can accomplish so much more if I had more provincial bodies, but I get the same answer you do. The province doesn't have the money. And then the flip side of it is where are we going to get those bodies from, and how quickly can we pump them through depot and get them into the field, and what happens when we do get new provincial bodies in Alberta, and they don't always go to detachments like High Prairie. They sometimes go to the more the provincial special task force like ALERT, Alberta Law Enforcement Response Team, or other sort of things that we won't see in this community itself. And so I've asked many times, like, where are we? Where are we on the list to get more people? And of course, there's always communities that have a more severe crime index than we do, and and their measurements indicate that there's other communities that are higher priority to fill than ours. And so I'm left with just making do with what I have. Now, of those 15 bodies, sometimes I've got vacancies that I can't fill. Like, for example, one of my corporal spots is empty because the fellow that was won the position is in Rocky Mountain House, and he can't sell his house right now. And we've been waiting since August. So I'm hoping with the spring market, he'll sell and he'll come up and he'll be up here by the summer. I'm hoping. Then there's others that, maybe are off duty sick for whatever reason, and then we've got some parental leaves and stuff like that. So, at the end of the day, we're probably running with right now we're running with 12 provincials right now. That includes me. So when it comes to what we do with our day and how we do our policing day in, day out, in this community, it's very busy comparatively to communities in central Alberta or southern Alberta, absolutely. And a lot of the time, we're just reacting to the calls for service. It's just whatever comes in, and we're dealing with it. And of course, in this day and age, it takes so much more time to investigate a file and do the proper paperwork. Like, if anything ever leads to a charge, I mean, you're looking at minimum 3 or 4 hours just in paperwork to get it to a point where you can fax it or email it, I guess, not fax, we don't fax anymore. Email it into the Crown Prosecutor's Office in Edmonton, and then it'll go into a queue where we do a bail hearing on the subject. All this takes time. So when it comes to the enhanced unit, which I have 2 RCMP members, and there's supposed to be a 3rd one from Lakeshore Regional Police Service, they're not supposed to be part of that world. They're certainly not answering calls for service. They're not investigating the impaired drivers. They're not chasing down the domestics. They're not doing any of that stuff. They're supposed to be exclusively doing 2 things. Well, drugs and crime reduction. The drugs, well, that's investigating the drug dealers. Not necessarily the users, but the drug dealers, right? And we're not necessarily talking about the high kingpins, We're talking about the network here in High Prairie. So they spend a large part of their time doing intelligence and probes and surveillance, determining on what kind of activity is going on. And they can't do that if they're taking calls. They get to a point where they formulate their investigation and they're able to draft search warrants, and they're able to execute those search warrants on residences or vehicles or whatever, and they're able to seize drugs and guns off the street, and they're able to charge the implicated people. They are also able to be free and able to attend schools and community groups in different parts of the High Prairie area to do drug education. And then lastly, their crime reduction component is checking up on serious habitual offenders, people who have been identified in the community as having severe criminality, and they're on conditions, so they're the ones that actually do the door knocks day or night to determine if they're complying with their conditions and monitoring them. And that's sort of the service you're being provided by those 2 RCMP members. A lot of my uniform members just simply don't have the time to do any of that because they are, like I said, answering calls for service. And any given day, our members are up north. Like, sometimes there's only me and maybe a corporal in town, and the rest of them are up north. So if anything comes in, we have to deal with it, which we do. I need more members. That's the bottom line. And the fact that, you know, the town and the county have made a commitment to have these enhanced members does make me feel a lot better, because they are able to do that extra work that our uniforms simply just don't have the time to do. And in a perfect world, I'd have enough uniform members that I could do everything. I don't know if I'm going to see that before I retire. So that's kind of how it works. But in order to demonstrate to council that we are accomplishing things, I know that we've been doing quarterly reports. So I'll go back to Corporal Lawson, who is the unit head of the drug unit, and I'll see where we're at with those quarterly reports. I know for a while he was pulling double duty because my sergeant was off sick for 3 months, but everybody's back. And we recently also switched out our constable because the last constable, he transferred to BC, so we replaced him with an in-house constable. But now we're waiting for a recruit to backfill his provincial position. So we're actually short on the provincial side to make sure that the enhanced positions are full. So right now I'm short a corporal and 2 constables. That was a long answer.
Thank you.
Any word on the dog handler coming in? Gotta ask. Yeah. Yeah.
Right?
That'd be a no.
Where do you live?
I really have to choose my words here carefully.
Turn off the tape.
This is going to be a fun meeting.
Yeah. That is one of the sort of, that's become almost a hobby of mine. Myron Friesen used to be the detachment commander here. I think everybody knows who Myron Friesen is. And Myron Friesen is my immediate supervisor in Grand Prairie. And Myron and I talk a lot. I don't know. I know commitments were made, but I really can't guarantee when that's going to happen. I know last year we had a dog handler for about a month, and for reasons I don't agree with, he moved to St. Paul. And then they were supposed to backfill his position. They did a lateral search. They couldn't find anybody. So then they put it out for promotion not once but twice, ran 2 cycles. That took 6 months. Nobody applied. And then I said, well, what's next? What are you going to do? And so I heard, and I didn't even think I heard directly from the RCPM. I might have even heard from either the town or the county, that there was a commitment made that we would get a new, not a recruit per se, but somebody who's recently graduated from the dog kennels in Innisfil, right? And that's kind of what the working understanding was. But nobody told us when that was going to be. So then I started asking questions, and I found out that we weren't going to get anybody in 2018 from the graduating class because they already promised to BC. So the best we could hope for is somebody from the graduating class of 2019. So then I said, well, when's that? And they said, well, they don't graduate until the end of August. So I said, that's 18 months, right? Well, from back when we lost our last one. So I started making inquiries recently as to whether or not they'd identified anybody in the class, because obviously they're starting to stack the class, which I think starts in May and goes until August. And they were kind of lukewarm about the whole thing, which made me have concern that they weren't going to follow through with their commitment. So I've been talking with Myron, and Myron's going to carry on trying to have the district officer ensure that we're going to get our position this fall. And if something happens, I'm truly sorry on behalf of the RCMP, but it was not a lack of trying on my part or Myron's part. We've always been advocating that we want that dog position, but I just don't know where it's at.
Go ahead. Yeah.
Would the dog handling position be an integral part of the enhanced policing?
No.
No?
Well, I mean, it's a provincial position, but if you're asking me if they're going to help out with the enhanced drug unit, absolutely 100% they are.
Right.
Yeah.
And so my position is, and you're correct in your answer because everybody else has said the same thing. And yes, it would be helping out whenever possible. So here we sit with a dog handler that's supposed to be here, is not here, and certainly it seems like there's a lukewarm reception from the RCMP as to do anything about that. But we'll take your $100,000, please. Thank you very much. And so I'm not seeing a reciprocal give and take from the RCMP. We need the dog handler, obviously, or else it wouldn't have been said that we need one. And then we don't get one, or we get one and then they go. And if it's going to help the enhanced policing do their job, then we're reducing their ability to do their job because they don't have that component that we were promised we'd get. But you still want $100,000 so we can have enhanced policing, which is a downloading of the responsibility, which then puts me back in my argument.
And I understand what you're saying, but the thing is that this dog, it'll help everybody do their job. Everybody, not just the drug unit. It's going to help everybody. Because the dog actually is not part of the detachment. It's not part of the 21 that I'm talking about. I'm not responsible for the dog. The dog just happens to be posted to High Prairie, but answers to a different chain of command. So he doesn't answer to me. He just rents a room in my hotel. Okay? Yeah. However, while he's here, he's going to do work in the area. But his broad geographical area is from Peace River to Fox Creek to Wabasca, to Swan Hills. I mean, he's got a huge area to cover, right? Yeah. Originally, what they're trying to do was they're trying to have 2 dog handlers out of Peace River because there's one up in High Level and there was one supposed to be here. But the police dog people within the RCMP world wanted those 2 positions centralized out of Peace River. So that was always the struggle. But my understanding, and I was in Fox Creek when this happened, was that the CEO at the time, Marianne Ryan, guaranteed that we were going to get that dog here. So we've all been waiting for that to come true. And if the dog was here, it'd be so much better for all of us because it would make our policing safer, having that extra level of tactical support. As well, it would help our neighbors, the Lakeshore Regional Police Service as well. And right now, as it stands, if we do call a dog, if we have a situation where we need a dog, whether it's a missing person or it's a high-risk situation that we need extra support or anything you think a dog would be required for, we might have to wait for it to come down from High Level or Grand Prairie. Worst case scenario, Edmonton. So we're talking maybe a 4 or 5 hour lag here. And by that time, more than likely, we'll have resolved the situation without the dog. So we've more or less learned to just do without. I mean, we still do call the dog from time to time, but he's either coming from High Level or from Grand Prairie. So the problem, if we're talking putting all the cards on the table, is attraction and retention. I came here. I like it here. It's a great town. I don't know how to make it more attractive to people to come here, right? The younger generation. I'm going to be really careful here.
Thank you for recognizing me.
You're welcome. They like cities, right? They don't like to be terribly far away from cities. So, I mean, obviously, if High Prairie was right next to Stony Plain, we wouldn't be having an issue on attracting anybody to come here. But we are 4 hour, well, three, depending on which way you drive, 3.5 to 4 hours from Edmonton. And some people, that kind of scares them away, I guess. That, you know. And then the other thing too is probably just economics in terms of buying houses, selling houses, that kind of thing. But if you have somebody who does want to come here and they get here, then we need to figure out how we can keep them as long as we can keep them. For us, at the detachment, it's about a 4-year term. You can stay longer. Very few stay shorter, but with them, we would expect probably about 4 years out of them once they get here. So we thought that if they came out of kennels, they wouldn't really have much of a say. They either want to be a dog man in High Prairie or they don't want to be a dog man at all. Right? So like I said, Myron and I will continue to try to keep the whole thing on track, and hopefully we'll get a dog by this fall. I'm hoping. And if we don't, then I'd like somebody other than me to explain why.
Well, that'll be good timing because the end of August it'll be AUMA time, and we'll have an opportunity to meet with the RCMP at that meeting and ask the questions.
It'll be a new face there too. There's a new commanding officer. His name's Curtis Zablocki.
Yeah.
You know him?
We met.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So.
Last AUMA when K Division
That was
stepped
Curtis
in.
there?
I'm pretty sure it was last year.
I'm not sure. I know that he left K Division for a bit and he went to Saskatchewan, and then he's come back.
Okay.
So, but most of the same faces will be there, and I think pretty much everybody knows that this community is looking for their dog. So, I don't think it's going to be a surprise, and I know every time that you guys go to AUMA, they always ask me if they can have a heads up as to what kind of issues you'll be bringing up, so I'll make sure they know too.
Councillor Rose?
Just further to that, would it be helpful now, instead of waiting until the fall where potentially the recruits that are being trained from May till then, that would be complete and they'd all be designated somewhere else? Would it be helpful more timely for us to sort of ask now, like a letter of inquiry as to the status?
Absolutely.
Send a delegation to the Eastern.
Again, I mean, if anybody has any questions, you know, you can always come and see me too. I mean, I'm more than happy to meet with any of you. I'll either see you in my office or I'll come to where you're at and we can talk. I don't have any concerns.
Well, thank you very much for coming down. I know you got another commitment tonight, so we appreciate you taking the time.
Feeding.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. Our next scheduled delegation is John Bennett on the schedule, but you don't look like a John Bennett to me.
I'm not a John Bennett.
But you must be speaking on that behalf.
Yes,
Okay.
Mr. Bennett sends his apologies. He had a personal thing come up that he couldn't make it. So my name's Sheila Phelps. I also work for SPC Solutions, which is the company that's looking to bring in some mobile homes into the Eastview mobile home park.
Okay.
So get myself a little bit organized here.
Sure.
thank you very much, Mayor and Council, for having us here today. Really appreciate it, the opportunity to.
Oh, I can, yeah, do we have on the mic there, there's a little on-off button. Yeah, when that little red
Okay.
light is on there, then we can hear you better. And,
Okay.
And the people in TV land can hear you better too.
Oh, boy.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't nervous enough already.
Yeah.
15,000 viewers, don't worry.
Yeah, that's
Oh.
right.
The camera's that way, though.
Yeah.
We're looking at you, not me. Oh. All right. So the purpose of our presentation is essentially to attain the blessing of council for the application of a development permit and ideally affirmation of one for mobile home in the Eastview Estates Mobile Home Park. Given the pending bylaw amendments, the development officer suggested it would be prudent for us to come before you to discuss why we're suggesting to bring in older mobile homes instead of ones that are in that 10-year time frame that the new bylaw is suggesting. So what we want to talk about this evening are essentially three areas. One is affordable housing requirements in High Prairie. There seems to be quite a demand for that. The homes themselves that we're looking to bring in, and also basically what we'll say is the costs or our budget that we need to stay within in order to be able to achieve an affordable housing alternative. So Mr. Liu, and I'm not sure if, did council get a copy of his letter? You do have a copy of that. So he kind of talks about four main things. One's the availability. So we do have 7 lots available in the mobile home park that there's nothing on. 5 are immediately available to move a mobile home on, and 2 need services. Well, the services have to be checked. We don't know how long it's been since the mobile home's been there. Mr. Liu's only owned the mobile home park for about 3 years. So he actually didn't even know he had those lots until we came and looked at the park and said, there's 7 empty lots here, not 5. He talks about the demand. He did have 40 responses to one mobile home that he had available for rent, whether it's to rent or rent to own. He does prefer people to own the homes because we find that tenants with the pride of home ownership tend to take better care of not only the home, but the lots as well, so we don't have debris. And the mobile home park, I've been in a lot over the past 5 years, and it's really not in that bad a shape to some that I've gone into. You know, there's not debris everywhere. Most of the homes are in pretty good shape. You can see that the people that live there have some pride and are taking care of the homes. He also talks about the affordability that he's working to try and meet so that people that don't maybe have the down payment for a home can look at an option with him. And he's also talks about the compliance. It's very important to him to comply with all of the bylaws and the community uses in the town of High Prairie. So when we talk about the affordable housing requirement, did anyone have any questions or anything? If anyone has a question, just feel free to interrupt, or I don't know, you press a button and the mic lights up. Yeah.
So when you talk about affordability, so is he going to be like carrying financing? He's financing his own homes? Is that what we're talking about here?
Sometimes he does do that, but his price point for purchasing a home is usually, he's trying to meet that, I'll say that $30,000 to $40,000 range. He's not trying to sell homes in that $110,000 to $150,000 range. So even people that have something like $5,000 or even $2,500 can kind of get into a rent-to-own type scenario. It's also very difficult for people to get financing for mobile homes.
So that's what I was just going to say. So what you're proposing isn't bank financeable?
Not
right?
you. It depends on the person's credit, but generally no.
Yeah, generally no.
Yeah.
So I was curious whether or not that's what he was proposing as a solution to getting into home ownership by way of carrying mortgages or something.
Yes, and that's what he does as well. So if someone needs that, then he certainly offers it. Was there any other? Okay, good. So when we talk about affordable housing, when we look at homes both within the community and homes adjacent to the community, homes adjacent to the community with land are selling between $40,000 and $75,000. That's with land that the people own the piece of dirt that the home is sitting on. Eastview, if we need to bring in mobile homes that are 10 years old, the turnkey costs are going to be between $110,000 and $140,000. That's to bring in the home, have all the utilities hooked up, have steps, decks, and I'm not talking fancy decks either. We're talking a 4x4 landing. Put the skirting on for just, that's them landed. That doesn't even include any sort of landscaping that would potentially need to be done. We wouldn't be able to offer an affordable alternative at that price point. We have found that the demand is significant for homes like this because new people, young families are coming to High Prairie and they can't afford. I've been looking at MLS listings over the past couple hours here, and there are quite a few homes that are kind of in that 250 to 350 type range, and young startup families aren't able to do that. And even people that are kind of mobile around the province, it's difficult for them to come up with down payments to be able to get into homes like that.
Just one point, just so you know, I think our bylaw that we passed first is for 12 years, not 10, but it's not going to make that much of a difference at the end price, just so.
Right.
Yeah.
Oh, so the bylaw has been passed, the new one?
First reading and
First reading.
Okay.
Yeah.
When last we understood, we kind of have drafts of things. Let me just see. I have a little bit of, Marion had sent drafts of things that were proposed. So one of them was the 10-year, the inspections, but I'll get to that in a moment. Actually, it's a great segue. The homes that we're looking to bring in, they are older, so they're late 70s. They've been approved and they do meet the Z240 compliance, and they've got CSA labels. They also, the first home that Mr. Liu has purchased, we've spoken to Superior Safety Codes, and there is a safety code officer, and it's currently by Stetler. I think it's Stetler. Superior Safety Codes would send an inspector out to take a look at it before it was brought here to make sure that it complies. We also don't have an issue with providing, in addition to that inspector's blessing, a structural engineer stamp. As I said, all of the homes that we sell have the Z240 compliance and the CSA label, and they follow. I guess where we're a little bit challenged is some parts of the bylaw that Marion had sent over to us didn't actually. It contradicted itself. So for example, and I don't know what the first reading looks like, so this might have been caught already. There was a reference that it has to be CSA Z240, and then later it said that the home will be less than 10 years old. Z240 hasn't been around since the 80s. It's A277 now, so that was a little bit confusing. There was. When we went through it, if we have the Superior Safety Codes approval for the home, that seemed to be one of the discretionary, I suppose, requirements. So we want to make sure, or what we're proposing is Mr. Liu and we always want to comply with municipalities. We're not trying to slide something in so under the radar. We want to make sure everything's on the up and up, because at the end of the day, what's important? Well, there's safety for one, and the other thing is aesthetics. Towns want their communities to look nice. We've done a lot of things with older mobile homes. We have one community that we worked with that had a very similar type restriction. All the homes that went in there got new vinyl siding before they arrived, or they were painted. And the town was happy with that. And what was happening there was they had a brand new development right next to the mobile home park. And they're selling these $300,000-$400,000 homes, and they're looking at a mobile home park. One of the things the town wanted was a fence. So we talked to the park owner and said, they'd like you to put up a fence. He put up a fence. They were upset about, there's an old playground, so we work with towns to bring everything into compliance, not just bring in one home at a time. And as I said, and in Mr. Liu's letter, he's committed to having an aesthetically pleasing homes and lots. He has been working on cleaning up debris and infractions, through infractions in the park. So if someone's not complying with the rules of the park, then they get something called an infraction. If they don't come into compliance, they're, usually what we do is we raise the rent. So someone could end up paying an extra $50 or $75 a month because they won't get rid of an RV that's sitting there, or the skirting's not on their unit, and then as soon as they comply, then that goes away. I understand there was a problem with one lot where he actually evicted the tenant because he couldn't get them to come into compliance, and they were living in the home illegally now. Having been before a few municipal courts, it takes a long time to evict someone. Regardless of whether, what kind of activity is going on in the home. Unfortunately, even criminals have a right to live somewhere. So what we're asking is, if we're meeting the Superior Safety Code's inspection requirements, and even in addition, if required, providing a certified structural engineer stamp, what's the objection? So we want to handle what the objection is to be able to comply so that we can bring these homes in. And all the homes, as I said, we want them to be safe, we want them to be sound. We don't want any sort of issues with them. We don't want them burning down. We don't want electrical issues. We don't want plumbing issues, all of that kind of stuff.
Councillor Daneka has a question for you.
Okay.
Actually, that was a great segue into where I was going, because we have our fire chief here.
Yes.
So I was going to ask him, so you're saying that these mobile homes that you're wanting to bring in are like 70?
About 78. Most of them I think the oldest one is 77. Most of them, I would say between 77 and 79.
So so when you say they've been upgraded, that's including wiring and all of that?
The wiring that was done in the 70s actually is still to code. Like, a lot of it's to code. Smoke detectors or something that's not, because at one time they had to be one time they had to be hardwired, then they weren't to be hardwired, and now some municipalities are making them hardwired again. But the wire is the new wire. It's not the. Well, I know I'm going to say this backwards. Aluminum's the old one, correct?
Yeah.
They don't have aluminum wiring, and they have copper wiring. Things that have been upgraded, because we don't rip out electrical and plumbing. When we get them, they have to comply with the codes. Otherwise, once you start touching those things, your CSA label's garbage, because you've now compromised it.
Right.
So things that we do is we'll upgrade the windows. So instead of being aluminum, they'll be PVC. We'll paint them. We'll change the flooring. Sometimes people have us change the bath fixtures, sometimes lighting fixtures. It really depends on the customer.
Right.
Most of them have lighting and such, I'm going to say, from the 90s. It really depends who owned them last. All of these homes actually were quite recently owned or in operation in a mobile home park in Canmore, and they were used for staff accommodations. So they've been upgraded over the past 10 to 15 years.
So my question to the fire chief, based on what she's saying in terms of what they want to bring in to Eastview as the fire chief, and based on the age that she's saying, do you have any concerns as opposed to it being a mobile home? A mobile home is,
No, there's no concern about the age of the building. I mean, as long as it's, enough, kept up. It should be okay.
okay?
Is it drywall? As long as it meets CSA, that's.
Depends on the home. Some of them have paneling, some of them have drywall. Some of them have a combination. Depends if the rooms. Paneling, the way they used to make paneling and the way paneling is now is actually they're different thickness. So if you have to change one panel, you actually have to change the whole wall. Otherwise it won't match up, or you're feathering out like. They still do have the insulated walls though. They're usually all 2x4 walls. You usually don't find 2x6 walls in that age.
Councillor Danek.
Isn't the new code for mobile homes, is it not 2x6 now?
The new code, yes, would have 2x6 walls. And that has to do with the R rating,
Right.
the insulation factor. So the new walls, see, this is where John is better at this than I am. The new walls, I believe, are 40, whereas the 2x4 walls, I believe, are 26 or 32.
And R40. Your 2x6 would be R40, and 2x4 walls are R12.
I think it's higher than that.
Pardon me?
But regardless, it's a lower standard of
Yep.
I mean, that's really a heating issue more than a.
Then a safety issue, yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Okay, well, I guess you're looking for an answer right now, and we usually, we don't give answers right away. We'll have to sort of look on it and think on it, get some more data, and make our best decision. Mm-hmm. So we will do that and get back to you one way or the other with what we want to do.
And what we can do too is if you have any questions or concerns, if you want to send them to us, and we're more than happy to come back again. We were actually expecting to come back again.
Okay. And where are you from? Where's your...
We're based out of Calgary.
Oh,
I actually live in a town called Langdon. It's about 20 minutes east of Calgary.
Oh, okay.
And our staging yard's in Strathmore,
Oh, wow.
where we have...
You're a ways from home. Sure.
So just to sort of sum up this, so I have a better understanding, like your ask is to bring the older mobile homes in on lots that are in Eastview, which are just rented lots, correct?
Yes.
So the purchase of, will they be for sale or will they be for rent?
There'll be a combination.
And the ones that are for sale will just be without land then? So they won't be, they'll be just selling the mobile home on not selling the land. They'd still have to be paying the rent on the...
That's right. I think I covered the last point already.
I'm assuming you have a website where we can look at the product and see work that you've done in the past?
I don't, the website actually doesn't show that, and the website's actually a bit dated. Most of the homes that are on the website are actually sold. But I certainly could send to Nancy some before and after pictures. The community that I'm talking about is Oyen, so you could certainly call them and ask them if we complied with what their requirements were. And I was in a really bad car accident at the end of June, so my memory's not. I rolled a truck 5 or 6 times and I broke my neck, and I'm lucky to be alive. And if I showed you the pictures, they're crazy. So my memory's lacking. I think her name was Cheryl. But in any case, if you call the town of Oyen and you talk to the administrator, we did a very similar type presentation with them. And they're the ones that the homes came inside it or painted. The skirting, because we're a professional corporation, we do all the work. So they're done immediately, so they're not sitting for months on end while someone's waiting to afford to be able to buy skirting, things like that. And so that would probably be a good reference. But I can also email, if you like, some before and after pictures, if that's okay. I don't know what the protocols are.
Well, I'm not sure. We can.
We'll just probably discuss it further at the next council meeting before the week.
Okay.
But she can provide you any information before that, right?
Yeah, she can provide if there was some pictures that might help. I'm not sure. Yeah. And we do appreciate, you guys working hard to make sure that stays in good condition. Eastview Estates there, so that's awesome. Thanks for staying on that and working hard.
Well, and that's Mr. Liu. He really is committed to the community, and he has a lot of respect for council and towns. And he owns a few mobile home parks, and he wants to work together. And he really does have. Well, he obviously has a vested interest, of course, but the nicer your community looks, the nicer the people are that live there, right? If you start having a dilapidated place, you end up having more questionable tenants there and homeowners. But I hope that you definitely take under consideration, because it would help for sure from an affordability perspective for people. And I was listening earlier about housing.
Yeah, exactly.
There does seem to be a demand. I can't believe people are driving here for work every day from Slave Lake because they can't find a place to live here. There's.
Where did you hear that from? Or
the people some of the 40 people that responded to the ad, there was a number of them that were coming from Slave Lake. There was one guy he's living in a hotel room with his wife and 2 kids because he can't afford.
He's traveling from a Slave Lake hotel.
No, the hotel room guy's here. Oh. This is a different people that are in Slave Lake. Yeah. I know I did a contract in Red Deer a few years ago. 18 years ago. My daughter was just born, and I know how old she is. And it's an 1.5-hour drive, and that makes a pretty long work day.
Absolutely.
But like I said, we want to follow the Superior Safety Codes specifications and bring in safe, affordable homes for people.
Councillor Gilroy?
I'd probably, knowing that you had a little bit of trouble with the potential bylaw we want to pass, or we're considering passing, you may want to just contact Marion again and get the latest one.
Okay, yeah.
So that you can see exactly where we're at with it. And then if you want to give your comments after looking at the new one, I'm sure we'd appreciate that.
Okay. One thing I did notice too, in the perspective one, there was, it said that the homes had to be covered under the new home warranty program. And the new home warranty program doesn't apply to manufactured homes. There was a little script that I don't know if it's in that NWHP, there was. That's right. Yeah, it's kind of, this industry has so many different references for different things that it can get rather confusing rather quickly. So, thank you again for your time. Really appreciate it, and hope you guys aren't here too late. And have a good night.
Yeah, thanks for coming down. Had a long trip.
Well, I cheated a bit because as I said, John had an emergency, so I flew to Grand Prairie.
Oh,
And I have family that lives in Hythe, so I asked my mom if she wanted to come and see her cousin. So I'm driving back to Hythe now.
oh, okay.
Drive safe.
Yeah,
Thank you.
safe
Take
travel.
care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, I can see we have a public delegation, I believe. Well, would you like to come and talk? I know we talked earlier, that's why you said you might want to come down, but, and I did pass on your concern to our CAO already, but come on up. Come on up and, yeah, and then we'll get you to use the mic, and for everybody in TV land, we'll get you to use, there's the little on-off, so we get so that they can hear better.
Okay.
And we'll start with your name, and so everybody sort of knows who you are.
That's the red button.
The red button.
Or not the red button,
There's no
the
red
gray
button,
button.
Brian. You're starting me off on a bad foot
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, the red one.
It's
Yeah.
Michael's fault. It's Michael's fault.
My name is Christy Lynn Barton, and we have been working with the High Prairie Gymnastics Association for the last 4 years. Since I've been here, that roof has been leaking. So it caused damage on the one side of the building, and it was repaired allegedly. Then the other side of the building started leaking, and we have both sides of the building leaking. And they came in, Rick said that he repaired it, they went up, they tarred it, and everything was fine, it was good. So then they came in, they put new drywall, and I said, Rick, why don't you put T-bar? Because if we have a leaking issue again, those tiles are a lot cheaper than hiring someone to come in, do the drywalling, mudding, taping, painting, and all that stuff. And Rick had told me, nope, we're good, this will not happen again. Well, then the following year, we had water issues again. And he came in and he had to take the electrical down because there was electrical issues that could cause fires, could cause electrocution, could cause all sorts of things. The gymnastics club has over $105,000 worth of equipment that is sitting in that facility right now. We're looking into getting content insurance because it's, if anything happens, we're done. Our doors will have to close. Currently, we do have people coming from Slave Lake. We have 7 members coming from Slave Lake. We had 5 members coming from Canuso, and now we've only got 1 coming from Canuso. We've got Sucker Creek, we've got surrounding area, Peavine, and other areas that come to High Prairie to use our facility because we have a level 3 certified coach. We have Peace River, Fairview, and Falher who have asked us if we would host a competition. However, with the facility that we have, with the water issues and the damage that's been done, it would be an embarrassment to bring them to our facility. Reason being, I don't have to hold that, oh sweet. Reason being, the tiles on the roof are fallen, they're damaged, they've got water damage, they're brown, they're stained, they're falling onto our floor mats. Then the facilities on the sides are constantly leaking, and you can smell the mold, you can walk, and it's spongy. Like, it's very spongy. I have worked with my dad building houses and my grandfather and my uncle, so I am aware of OSB, I'm aware of 2x4s, 4x4s, all that other stuff. Plus my husband works for West Fraser, so it kind of gives me knowledge of what we should and shouldn't be putting in there. The subfloor that is underneath of the flooring where it's water right now is OSB. It is black. So whether that has been tested by anyone to see if that is actually black mold, I don't know. Rick has told me that it's not black mold, that it's just water and the glue and the adhesive from the flooring that was laid on top of it. And so he said that he didn't think it was black mold. So they did put new subfloor, or not new subfloor, they put new vinyl down on top of it. And now that is a sponge. It's, right now, we have water in there. And we had a lady from Slave Lake, and she said, you need to notify me, because if this water's like this, we will not travel to High Prairie and use your facility any longer, because it's dangerous. Like, in the like all these vents, there's water, and there's electricity, and there's children, and they're barefoot, and if something happens, it's a huge liability. We do have insurance on all of our gymnasts. We do have insurance for liability. However, we do not have insurance for content. I've spoken to Rick today, and Rick said, Christy, you're beating a dead drum. He says, I know everything you're telling me. I'm trying. He says, we went up on the roof. We removed all the snow. However, with the rain, the moisture, it's still going to leak. There's nothing we can do. He said that the structure of the roof needs to be redone. He's spoken to many people about this, and he said that what's going to have to happen is we're going to have to get the figure skating, minor hockey association, the gymnastics club, the curling club, everyone to get together, and we're going to have to do a petition to get something done, because tarring it and putting new shingles on is not doing the trick. And there's damage already done inside the structural walls of the building. Like down into where the hockey floor is, there's already leaking into there. And then if the leaking gets into where the lady has the concession, she will no longer be able to hold a concession because of the damage that's being done to her facility as well. You could see through the walls, like you could see daylight coming in through the walls. And we've had other teams who come to High Prairie, and they've said that some of the dressing rooms are so cold because there's cracks through the wall, and even with heaters going on, it's too cold in there. My understanding is Jeff Copeland had come and he had spoke with Rick about it. The girls' dressing room that they have in the arena had black mold, and that was addressed and done and dealt with. And then there was also in the Regals room. I haven't been able to speak with Jeff, but I do know who Jeff is, and I will be talking to him to ask him if there's still issues going on this year. But Rick had also notified me that the new building, that was the Gordon Buchanan side, is also leaking very excessively in the one corner as well, because when they were adding things to the roof of it, they were drilling holes, and the holes never got properly sealed, and therefore we still have water leaking into that brand new facility, which is then causing more damage, structural damage to our brand new Gordon Buchanan side. These are all issues that we have to have, because I mean, you get mold, it's a structural building, it's used by a lot of people. We don't have any outdoor arenas that we can utilize through the winter. So the only thing we have is our two arenas, and if we want to use anything else, we have to travel out of town of High Prairie, because we don't even have an outdoor arena that these children could utilize. We have a lot of potential in this community. We have a lot of hockey players that are moving up, and they're going to Peace River and other areas. We have a lot of gymnasts who've done very well, that they've gone to competition and they've taken first, second, and third overall highest score for the gymnastics. We've got a lot of figure skaters with a lot of potential as well. This is a very growing population that we have in High Prairie, and it would be devastating to see our one facility that is utilized by so many be destroyed because we're neglecting to get it properly maintained.
All right, yes, no, I think we can say we want to see that maintained, and I know, as I talked, they did they did put tin up on the roof. It wasn't shingles. That was what was redone when, and that was, Brian, you figured?
Every year.
Well, no, up there, or?
We work on it every year.
Every year.
Same thing every year.
And no.
Yeah, every year they're tarring it.
Yeah.
It's an old building. It's ancient. But it's ancient. Like they try to fix it every year. It's just rotten.
Is there no government grants that we could apply to as a community to see about getting the facility rebuilt?
Love to. I don't think there is.
Certainly that was the attempt at that, as well as a brand new building that we had fundraised for years for a multiplex.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we did get some grant money, and I mean, even after 10 years of fundraising and tons of volunteer hours, the decision was to move forward with a standalone pool and not a multiplex. We just never came close to being able to have the dollars to be able to rebuild. I mean, and I know, and it's old, and I know we have our challenges, but I visited this summer in Halifax, and with people that used to live in High Prairie, and they toured us through their facilities, that their arena that's 150 years old. Lots of challenges. They have, you know, it smells like a dirt floor in some areas, but it's still functional. It still runs their minor hockey programs. It's still, you know, but you have to do with what you've got, right? We have an older facility, not like Halifax's older facilities, but we haven't been offered the opportunity from the government to rebuild and to have a brand new facility. So I guess it is just do the best we have with what we have.
Councillor Long.
Not good enough. We had a rec board that was responsible for the maintenance and of all of our recreational facilities. And I have complained about that rec board since the day I was elected. And we're seeing this now, and we have mold, we have water coming through, we got holes coming through where people are changing the clothes of kids for, what the hell? Like this isn't something that should be taken lightly. This is something that we should be embarrassed that the rec board let falter. That we have people that we're paying good money to oversee the facilities. And why is it that we're now hearing that we have a catastrophe? We have our kids doing gymnastics on spongy wet floors and leaking ceilings and holes in walls. And you're the first to come in and tell us this. We've had people say that there's issues. We've never had anybody come in and say, here's all of the things that are impacting us and here's all the problems. My question, I guess, is what was the rec board doing? I'm sorry, guys, but it's clear that it was mismanaged. And we have a problem, and we have a huge problem if we're going to have people from outside our community not come into and serve and use our facilities because of their disrepair. And who is responsible, who's accountable, and what are we going to get to do, what are we going to do about it? Because we should be shutting the facility down, which is what I'm saying we should be doing some of our facilities already, and get it fixed. And if it means taking a huge ass loan out, I am furious. This is something that you guys should have been coming to us and saying, we need to fix this.
Michael, calm down. Seriously, like
Really?
This is,
Calm down?
No, but so she has some issues. I mean, we have an entire minor hockey. There's lots of people using the facilities.
Right.
If the facilities were really falling apart, somebody
I
else
think
would
the
tell
issue,
us.
Debbie,
There's no defense, Debbie. There's no defense for the rec board on
you
this.
guys, let's get back to
But have we
order
not
here.
had-
Hold on.
Thank
We're
you for
going
bringing
back
it to
to
us.
order. We're gonna go one by one.
Can I ask a Brian a question though? Martinson?
Yes, we'll do one at a time now.
I just want to know about the facilities report. We just had all of the buildings appraised, or what was the inspection? The Amoresco report. And we have a report on everything. It's not on one person or one position or. So I'm asking our CAO, because he had the report, like we have a report with all the buildings evaluated. We have a list of priorities. Everything was given. So there are probably challenges with every older building in this community, including probably the town office. Do you have a report that is indicating that we should be closing the arena based on this report here?
No.
So what is your comments on this, Brian?
I knew there was a problem because last year Rick had called me and it was leaking, as Christine said. So I went up on the roof with him, and he said that they were applying tar again to the seals where I believe where the tin was overlapping. But he didn't know if it was backing up underneath it again, if he missed a spot. He didn't think he had, but obviously they're not the expertise in that one.
So what did the Amoresco report though state about that?
I couldn't tell you. It didn't address that portion of it anyways. I didn't see that portion, so. But we'll go back in.
I'm somewhat in agreement with Councillor Long. When we are put on committees, we are representing the town, and we need to do the very best. What I would like to see is I would like to see a new engineering report to find out exactly what's done. I'd like to see an inspection done by AHS Health to make sure that if there's black mold in there, then it is dealt with. I'd like to what's done is done. We can't change what's done, but we can change what we do from now on. And so we do need to have not Band-Aid solutions. It's like putting Band-Aid on gangrene. It's not going to stop it. We need to be able to have a report saying this is exactly what we need to do to fix our facilities so that those who pay good money to be in there, I mean, we're losing out on, for example, she just said about we have such quality people, we're not even bringing competitions in here. That's economic development. There's a whole bunch of things here. And so, as I said, I'd like to see our engineers or whoever get a brand new report in here, get a health assessment on it, and then work from there. Because if we're charging money for a giant liability, to me that makes us even more liable if something happens. Not just the hockey or just these guys. I mean, we as a town cannot afford to end up with a giant lawsuit just because we're trying to band-aid solutions on spongy floors and stuff like that. It's very important that we do our best on this stuff, even if it means some very painful decisions.
Okay, as you can see, there's we've heard
Yeah.
the concern loud and clear, and we do
Well, like-
want to see it fixed.
Yeah,
I think
like
that's
Mike
the same thing.
Long says there, why hasn't anyone else brought this forward? I think a lot of the issue is a lot of people have gone to Rick, and on our contracts, it doesn't say who we're supposed to contact and whatnot. I have a meeting with Lori on Thursday to discuss our contract for the next 5 years. However, with inflation and stuff like that, our rent keeps going up over the next 5 years. And so her and I are going to try to negotiate that, because if we go on the inflation rate and our rent keeps going up and our enrollment keeps going down, we won't be able to afford rent. We won't be able to afford anything. And on top of it, if the facility is the way it is, to try to use, like, from my understanding, the gymnastics club, before I got there, they spent over $30,000 doing a viewing area. And because that is structural part of the building, we can't get insurance on that $30,000. But now that $30,000 has gone down the toilet, because the seams where the tape lines are completely buckled. There's water leaking everywhere. Like, when I went there tonight, I have over 12 buckets that I leave here, and I go to the arena and I'm emptying tonight. Rick said that he'll have guys going as well, but I actually might have to have you come in and have a look, because where those wiring and those lights are, the concern is that there might be a fire issue as well. So, like, we can use our casino money to upgrade it and everything, but then when our enrollment is down and we need to pay our level 3 certified coach, we have no money. So then we will not be able to operate, we will not be able to function, we will not be able to provide the service for the surrounding area in the community of High Prairie, which would be devastating, because gymnastics brings balance, core stability. It gives them a sense of belonging, it gives them dignity, it gives them pride, it gives them motivation, it gives them something to look forward to. Something that a lot of these kids in this community need. As all of you are aware of, there are edibles in this community that are going around. We've had a kid OD. We've had children who are smoking pot because they think 5 milligrams is acceptable, and they're getting into trouble because there's drugs available to them. And if we have facilities open that these kids can go to and they can excel and stuff, then maybe they won't lean toward those drugs and stuff. Maybe they'll lean towards their sports. Maybe they'll lean towards the athletic side of it to get scholarships to further their educations and go places. Today we just had our career development in the junior high school, and a lot of these kids are saying, well, what is there for my kids if I were to stay here? And I said, well, you got to look around and see what all High Prairie has to offer you. And, as you get older, you can bring more things in to offer. Like, we were talking about wrestling teams. We were talking about boxing teams. We were talking about, all the things that aren't here that these kids could bring in and offer their children and stuff. But again, it comes down to facilities. And if we don't have the facilities available or for them to rent because they're run down, then there's nothing we can do.
Water bowl.
Yeah.
Just dump the buckets out.
Yeah.
So I can make a commitment that we'll look into it for sure, Christine. We'll find out, and we can get back, and maybe through your meeting with Lori on Friday, we might have some more answers. But
Okay. Yeah, because I know Rick said he can only do so much.
Yeah.
And I said to him, Rick, you're not an engineer. You're not a carpenter. You know nothing about construction and stuff like that. I said, so no offense to you, but I would rather someone who's certified and qualified. I said, if I'm going to get my teeth done, I'm not coming to you to get my teeth done because you don't know anything about dentistry. I said, I want someone who knows about engineering and construction and building to properly come in and check this out, because not only the subfloor, if the subfloor is rotten, then who's to say underneath your trusses aren't starting to rot? What are your trusses made out of? you know, you could have swelling and stuff going on in there, and you don't want that roof collapsing and then another roof collapsing and having huge liabilities happening there. And Mike, all I could say is I know a lot of people talk in this town and they all say, oh yeah, I'm going to come to the meetings, I'm going to come to the meetings, or they say, yeah, I'm going to stand up for something. But the thing is, they have to come here and talk to you guys. Yeah. So I'm going to encourage more people to come to you guys and bring their ideas and their complaints, because sometimes we don't have in our contract who we're supposed to go to, who is liable, who isn't liable. And then I show up at Brian's house and I'm like, hi, Brian, neighbor. So I appreciate you guys listening to me, and I hope that we can get this matter resolved, because like Nadine Halliwood said from Slade Lake, she's not coming back if we don't have this issue fixed.
Yeah,
so.
And you know what, with knowing the snow melt and everything that's going on right now, it's not likely going to get solved in the next week, right?
Oh, exactly,
it sounds like a bigger issue of what's going to require this longer term.
Yeah, but for the board and us, we need to decide, like, are we safe enough to have our doors open for the kids to come tomorrow at 5 o'clock or 5:30 when they're supposed to come? Because if they're not, then we need to give 24-hour notice, so that way people coming from Canuso or from out in McLennan, they don't drive all the way and get here and then find out that the facility is drowning, literally.
Can I ask one question just about the contract? So you guys are just renegotiating the contract. What space is part of your contract? Just your actual gymnastic space, or do you have in your contract part use of the dressing rooms?
No, ours is just above the arena, the gymnastics club itself.
So none of the other parts of the arena, none of the dressing rooms are part of that, okay?
Yeah,
Thanks.
no, none of those. Yeah, so we're just, right now, we're emptying buckets.
So you guys do you use the dressing rooms some?
No, we use the dressing rooms for minor hockey, because my son is in minor hockey and my husband is an assistant coach for one of the teams. So that's how I know about the dressing rooms. Plus, we use the dressing rooms every now and then when we have a fundraiser come in. So when the fundraisers come in, instead of us going up and down those stairs with a lot of boxes, yeah, we just make them cinnamon buns or something. So, but yeah. But if we could have someone look at it, then we know for tomorrow whether or not we should actually have our doors open, like, at all.
I just want to say thanks for coming forward and bringing this to our attention. Hopefully we'll come to the proper resolution to get this done so it's a viable and stable facility for everybody who uses it. And thanks again for bringing that to our attention, because I honestly did not know.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Well, thank you. Do I have to press this?
Empty buckets? That's a no, I take it.
Let's do a couple of agenda items and then we'll take a break. We got the fire chief's report. Can I get a motion on that one? Councillor Gilroy.
And I pressed the right colored button this time. Yes, I'll move that council receive the fire chief's January and February 2019 reports for information.
All right. Anything you'd like to bring to our attention, Chief, or is it all?
Not really. Everything's pretty well in writing in front of you. So if there's any questions, entertain any questions. If not,
Councillor Danaka has one for you.
Just a clarification, I don't know what this term means, but what is the call for tender support? What does that mean?
Tender support, a tender is our water truck that delivers water.
Oh, okay, it's a piece of equipment.
Yes.
Okay, because I'm thinking tender like a bid.
No.
Okay.
Well, there are different terms for different pieces of equipment.
Oh, I see, okay. All right.
We can't call it a tanker because forestry's airplanes are called tankers.
Oh,
so when we say
okay.
tanker, everybody starts thinking airplanes, so then they're called tenders. So.
Okay, and my second question is, on your February 25th, said crews called off when they were approximately 3 kilometers from the scene, but they continued and found they were not required. Trip was total waste of time and money.
We were called to,
If they were called off, why did they continue?
they were only 3 kilometers from there, so I mean, rather than turning around, you may as well drive the extra 3 kilometers and see what was going on. And we got called for backup for a Skidoo accident. And I mean, in my mind, for a Skidoo accident, there's 1 person, maybe 2 people. There's not going to be any extrication to do. There's not going to be anything like that. I mean, the most you're going to have is 2 people with a Skidoo. And Big Lakes was there. Gift Lake was there. I mean, why did they need us there? And instead of calling us, why didn't they call Red Earth? Red Earth is a lot closer than we are. I mean, so it's sort of, I don't know, it's frustrating for us to be called to go that far to respond to a call, and then you get there and they say, well, sorry, we don't need you. And
So who would have called you?
it would have been the county. The county fire chief is the one that requested that we respond. So him and I have spoken since, and hopefully it doesn't happen again. But,
Okay.
I have one last question. How's your manpower? You seem to always discuss your up and downs.
right now, our
Recruitment,
manpower
I
is,
see you're doing some recruitment.
we've got, well, we had a full roster, but we just lost 1, so we're down to 35 members right now. And the only problem is, out of those 35 members, probably 15 of them are new. So before they can do anything, we've got to train them. So right now, we're spending hours and hours and hours of time training everybody to get them so they're capable of.
Oh, Councillor Gilroy. Oh, sorry, Councillor Courtley.
Ken, why would John be worried about that call when it's in the Northern Sunrise? 'Cause it's not in the county. It's on the county, right? So it's up in Junction 75088. That's Northern Sunrise County. Wouldn't that just automatically go to Red Earth, or?
It should have, but we cover right up to the Big Lakes covers right up to the 88 750 junction.
Oh, you go right up into the Northern Sunrise County?
Well, it was right, what, 2 miles from the intersection?
Oh, that is. Because the county line's quite a ways back there.
Yeah.
But no, I was just curious why they.
And another thing is, I guess.
It's kind of no man's land there, right? So,
yeah, it is. So.
Yeah.
But in actual fact, Red Earth would have been closer.
Oh, by far.
But.
Yeah. Well,
So be it. But I mean, for us, it was just a.
I guess it depends on who's at the accident and who they physically call, right?
Yeah.
Right. Okay.
And I mean, it was a serious accident. I mean, the guy on the Skidoo had a leg that was severed, cut it right off, and but you didn't need 3 fire departments there, and well, the county sent 2 units, Gift Lake sent 1 unit, and we sent 2 units. So.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just curious.
Councillor Gilroy.
Actually, I was very encouraged when you just said you had 15 rookies. Because, no, it just means there are new people actually wanting to be firefighters in our area, which to me is a very good thing.
Hopefully they stay.
And even at the career fair over at Prairie River today, I have to admit, the most popular part of High Prairie was actually joining the fire department.
And I apologize for that. We were supposed to have 2 members at the career fair today, but I couldn't make it because I had a couple meetings going on at the fire hall, but I had 2 other guys that were supposed to be there, and of course both of them forgot. So unfortunately,
That happens.
Then there's one more thing that we're having our annual firefighters ball on the 6th of April. So if anybody is willing to come and join us and support the fire department, you're more than welcome. And I have been in contact with our mayor to, I didn't formally make a request, but I did email him and asked if he would come and say a few words on behalf of the town. So Brian will be attending our ball and hopefully help us with some presentations and say a few kind words or good words or bad words. I don't know.
Have a fire speech.
Fires, yeah. So I just had one question before we move on, and that was around, we were talking about the fire truck that you'd mentioned a few meetings before that needed to be replaced, but I know you guys have a plan now, and I don't know if it's been shared with all the council, but perhaps you can say what the strategy is or moving ahead.
Yeah. Next meeting? Yeah. I think we'll have more information for the next meeting, but what the plan is, well, I shouldn't say a plan. What happened was the county hired a consulting firm to come in and do a survey,
An overview of the whole.
overview of the fire department, the whole fire department in the whole area. And what they suggested is that we have too many fire trucks. So they want us to, instead of replacing our fire truck, they want us to use the county truck and share resources with the county and with the town. And in our mind, like, that's not going to work, because for one thing, the trucks are totally different. The ones for the county and the ones for the truck, for the town, they're totally different units. They have different hoses on them. The hoses are backwards. So if we have a fire in town, we have to pull all the hose off, turn it end for end, hook it back up to the truck, and then we can use it. I mean, it just doesn't work. I mean, we don't have time to do that kind of stuff in an actual fire. On the county trucks, we don't carry 100mm hose. In town, we do use 100mm hose. There's no place to carry 100mm hose on the county truck. And they said, well, we can make a hose bed for it. Well, yeah, they can make a hose bed. We can probably put 4 lengths of hose on there. We don't need 4 lengths of hose. We need 24 lengths of hose. I mean, you just can't use a county truck in town. It just doesn't work. Another thing is, if we have 2 fires at the same time, which we do quite often, numerous times. I mean, just within the last year, we've probably had 4 or 5 calls where we had a fire in town and a fire out in the county. Now, if the fire's out in the county and there's something burning in town, who gets priority? Who says, well, we're going to fight that fire or we're going to fight this fire? I'm sure that West Fraser, if they knew that we didn't have a fire truck, we were sharing it because the county truck is going to be out putting out a bale fire down in Sunset House, we're going to have to wait and call Renilda or call McLennan in to come and do standby for the fire truck for West Fraser. I mean, that's going to go over like a lead balloon, right? That's not going to work. So.
Okay, well, this, I was asking more about the replacement of the truck. You got into sort of some other things, which is the consultant and what they did. So
well,
I'm curious to hear.
I was told that we weren't going to be getting a truck. That's what I was told.
Okay.
So, I mean.
Okay. Well, we need to definitely look into that more, and we'll have an update with some stuff at our next meeting then, it sounds like. And I'm not sure where that consultant's report is at either. I haven't heard anything.
That won't be done till the end of March or the end of May?
Yeah, I thought it was in May sometime.
Yeah, I think it's May. So.
Okay. Well, and again, that's just a report for information, right? I mean, there's nothing binding in that report at all.
In the meantime, I do have prices from two different companies for fire trucks, and one is just under 500,000. The other one is just over 500. Terry's in the process of going back and looking at how we can do this, like whether we can buy it and debenture it for 10 years, 15 years, whatever. So we'll have more for next meeting. So,
Okay. Any other questions for the chief? Okay, seeing none, we had a motion to receive for information. All those in favor? Carried. Moving on to our minutes from February 26th. Can I get a motion on those? Councillor Gilroy.
Okay, I make a motion that council approve the minutes from the February 26th, 2019 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any errors, omissions that we need to correct? Yep.
Just going to page 16 regarding the MMSA 2019 aerial imagery. I see it was sent to council for budget deliberations. I had a report from Alicia today stating that she believes that the cost is not going to go up from what was quoted, because I know council had some questions regarding the number of municipalities that were going to take part in it. So I don't know if this is the same group that was the county had hired or not. So, but theirs was like $100,000 and some to by the county. So, but just to give council some background information.
Okay. Any other comments on the minutes? Seeing none, all those in favor? Carried. And now we'll let's take a 15-minute break or 10-minute break, come back at 1:45.